Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchising. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ion Franchising. Today we have as always, two amazing guests. The first, they're together. So the first gentleman, leader in franchise development. He's with companies like Exponential Fitness, brands that I represent, big company. He's done that quite a while. And today he is the director of franchise development for StormGuard, an amazing, amazing franchise. Just recently did a deal with StormGuard. And the other gentleman, more significant, I guess you can say, I'm just kidding. This gentleman is an attorney. He's been an attorney, private practice since 2011, I believe. And he has been the president of StormGuard since, 2015. So I want to welcome Shane Lynch.
Your guest off, though. Thank you for that intro, but you led with he's an attorney, because now everybody's going to click off. So.
No, they're not. So Shane and John, welcome to Ion Franchising. Thank you so much for being here. The first order of business. So Shane, let's start with you. So give us a little bit about your backstory, Shane. You know, you're an attorney. What led you to be an attorney? And then how'd you end up at StormGuard?
So I was that little kid growing up that didn't want to be a fireman or an astronaut. For whatever reason, as long as I could remember, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I became a lawyer, and I realized that job really sucks. So I graduated from law school in 2008, and I clerked for a federal bankruptcy judge in Fort Worth, Texas for a couple of years. And during my clerkship, we had the Texas Rangers go through bankruptcy. That was really fun. So we had Nolan Ryan and Mark Cuban in the courtroom. We had an auction that went till 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to see attorneys screaming at each other in the hall, just a typical court case, right?
Yeah.
So after I left my clerkship, I went and practiced bankruptcy, representing large companies in bankruptcy, fighting those evil banks in a boutique firm in Dallas. And, I would wake up every morning knowing that I was going to get in a fight that day. And I knew that the fight that I was going to get in was going to be incredibly stupid. I knew that the fight that I was going to be in was going to be with another lawyer who made the same argument that I was making 2 months ago, but now they would pretend like they didn't understand the argument. So I called my dad and I was like, hey, I got to get out of this. I can't practice anymore. This is terrible. And we were looking at, my dad and his long-term partner, Bobby Cox, were looking at buying StormGuard. And this was in 2014. And they were getting closer, and he called me one day and said, hey, you want to run StormGuard? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So we bought StormGuard. My family and Bobby bought it in June of 14. And then I came on as president of StormGuard in January of 15. And when we bought it, we had, I think it was 3 or 4 franchisees, and we had to take almost all of them out. Earlier, they had done silly things like selling an entire state to one person. There was no training and that sort of thing. So really, when we bought it, we had one real franchisee. And you had a
lot of work to do in 2015.
We did, and we were losing money like crazy. And over the last almost 7 years now, we turned it around. We built it up to 35 franchisees, the vast majority of whom are profitable. You've always got your 1 or 2 low performers, but the vast majority of them are profitable. We're profitable. We're on a great course. We've got John, who's leading us in a great direction to help us grow the system. And things are good now.
Awesome. I love hearing all the details. I knew some of that, but I certainly didn't know all of that. So this is going to be awesome. So I appreciate that. So John, give me some of your backstory and how you got to StormGuard.
So I spent over 17 years in multi-unit leadership. So, $550 million budgets, P&Ls, things like that. And no matter how hard I worked, and I always did, and no matter how well I did, I always made kind of in the same range, which was a comfortable living. But I always am a big effort person. I want to work really hard and I want to reap the reward. So then I left that, started some businesses from scratch. I like autonomy, but sometimes so much autonomy and what you're going to carry, where are you going to carry it, how are you going to source it, how are you going to sell it, market it, can really slow things down. So I really fell in love with the franchise model because, again, proven business model support. If you get someone who's a good executor, they can do really well. And got into franchise development, and I've always loved StormGuard. And what I really like about StormGuard, it's very values based. It's a industry that a lot of people want to get into, but they're just jumping in. Where StormGuard's been around for about 19 years. Current leadership with Shane's been around for a long time, and really values based, the right support, really taking care of the franchisees, and they really see it as the StormGuard family. So as soon as I got the opportunity to do development for StormGuard, I jumped on.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about what you just touched on, John. When it comes to franchising, and Shane, I'm sure you had your opinions. So, give me the good stuff. I mean, why franchising? What excites you guys about franchising? Obviously, John, if you were in business by yourself before, you certainly know what the advantages are of franchising. So let's hit on that a little bit. Why franchising? What gets you excited about that?
So again, I'm a big fan of that proven business model. I mean, your pathway to profitability or significant profitability with business ownership can take a long time. You look at the success rates of businesses started from scratch versus franchising, it's nowhere near it. And that's why, and as one evaluates franchising, I always look at the model. Is it a model that a brand that you believe in? Look at the model and see yourself as being able to be, one of those successful franchisees. What's their attributes? How do they do it? Do you see yourself aligning it? And then, is it a brand you believe in? And like StormGuard, is it a leadership team that you really believe in? Do you believe that you can be part of that family? So what I like about it is if you have all those things and all those things line up, it can be a really nice opportunity for anyone who's looking to get into business for themselves.
Yeah, good. Shane?
Yeah, so everything that John said, yes. But he said one thing that is the key, I think, of why franchising. He said family. And so when I talk about our franchisees and their employees, I talk about the StormGuard family. Every email that I send says, "Dear StormGuard family." When we have conference, our national conference, it's like family. It's like a family reunion. Mm-hmm. But what does family mean? For franchisee means that you've got a bunch of other owners who are trying to drive the brand the same direction that you are. They want to see the brand grow. They want to see the brand have values that customers appreciate. But it also means that you have people that will support you. So I don't have all the answers, and neither do any of my employees. All of our, the people that I have that work with us that support our franchisees, we don't have all of the answers. Yeah. We've got 35 franchisees who have tried everything. And so when we have a franchisee that comes up with a great idea, and I can give you an example, in today's world, online marketing is huge. And it's a really difficult thing to do, especially for home service businesses. But we had one franchisee in Nashville who didn't spend any money. He just started engaging regularly on one of the social platforms, just one of them. Mm-hmm. He would ask that all of his reviews be there. He would regularly watch it to see if somebody was asking for a roofer in their neighborhood. And he would ask his former customers to promote it. That's not something we did. That's something that he did, but he shared it with his family because he wanted to see everybody else be successful. So we designed a program. We took his idea, we designed a program around it, and now our other franchisees are implementing that program. And so by franchising, because you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, because you have a bunch of other smart people that have the same goals as you and that want to see you successful.
I love it. The old expression in business, for yourself, but not by yourself.
Absolutely.
And the best practices are just key. McDonald's, everybody seems to know McDonald's, and last I checked, the filet of fish and the Big Mac were invented by, or suggested and proposed by franchisees, and corporate adopted those and worked through the recipes, and boom, it's on the menu years ago. So let's do this also. Shane, why don't you give us the elevator pitch? What is StormGuard?
Okay, so StormGuard is exterior restoration. What does that mean? That means that we do anything on the exterior of a home or business. This is going to be real fast because I've memorized it. Roofing, window, siding, gutter, emergency tarping, painting. So slower. Roofing, windows, siding, gutters, emergency tarping, painting. Restoration. What does that piece mean? That means that most of our work is to help homeowners and business owners restore their property after it has been damaged due to some weather event. So most frequent for roofing is going to be hail, but you can absolutely see damage from, windstorms, from hurricanes. One of our franchisees a year or two ago had a killer year because he had a hurricane come through his town that wasn't, one of those like terrible destroy everything hurricanes, but it was bad enough that
just enough
damage, yeah, exactly. So, people think I used to be a bankruptcy lawyer and people are like, oh, you're rooting for a bad economy. No, I'm rooting for economy just bad enough. Today, I'm not rooting for bad weather. I'm rooting for weather just bad enough, So that's what we do. We help people that have experienced a loss to their property, bring their property back to where it was before the weather event or whatever caused the damage.
Well, good explanation. You're you know it well. And what I love about your business model is that people aren't necessarily coming out of pocket to pay you. Most of your business. Yeah. Let's talk about that part of the model.
The vast majority of the work that we do is insurance paid. Probably 90% is insurance paid. So you've got home insurance, you own a home, you're paying these premiums every year. What are you paying these premiums for? You're paying these premiums in case your house burns down, but you're also paying the premiums in case you experience some sort of damage to your home. And that damage could be a lot of things. It could be, you have a pipe burst due to cold weather and it just ruins your wood floors and you got to replace that. Your insurance is going to pay for that. Your insurance is also going to pay to replace your roof if it's damaged. Why do they pay to replace your roof? Because if you don't replace your roof when it's damaged, it's going to start leaking and it's going to cause a lot more damage. So most of our customers, all they have to pay is their deductible. That's it. Everything else is paid for by insurance.
Yeah, love it. Great business model. And I know in the franchise world, there are other restoration brands, but you have that unique specialty. I don't know that there's anybody else that just focuses on exterior restoration like you guys do.
Yeah, there are a ton of brands in the home services space that do restoration. Think like ServPro, it's a huge one. But they don't specialize on the exterior stuff. ServPro is that example that I gave, the water damage.
Right.
And so there are some newer brands that are doing roofing, but they're really not focused on what we are, which is the restoration piece, because there are a lot of reasons that people will replace roofs. Sometimes your roof is just old and you've got to replace it and you're going to have to pay for that out of pocket. And sometimes you buy a house and it just doesn't look good and you want to get a new color and do some upgrades. And so you'll replace it for that reason. Those other brands are focusing on those types of customers. We focus on the customers that we believe we can help the most. And those are the customers that have experienced the loss and need our guidance to get them through this difficult time.
Wonderful. So obviously a lot of our listeners are interested in franchise opportunities. Everybody's at a different level. There are people that are listening that are serial entrepreneurs, and maybe they've owned a franchise, and there are plenty of people that know nothing about franchises. Maybe they're currently in a corporate job that they don't love so much, and they're interested in, well, what's my next move? A lot of people think franchises are expensive. And the reality is, well, when you look at McDonald's, it's a big investment, but there are tons of franchises that are under 200,000, just like StormGuard. So the question is, why StormGuard, and who who's a good fit for to be a franchisee of StormGuard? Do you need construction experience?
Let me address the last question first, and then I'll throw it over to John. Do you need? Not one of our franchisees comes from roofing, general construction, or any construction related thing. The closest that we have is we have a franchisee who was a salesperson for Snap-on.
Wow.
That's as close as we have to construction trades. So you don't have to have experience in construction at all, because believe it or not, the easiest part of the business is building the roof. We will teach you all that you need to know about that. John, do you want to talk about the other points?
Yeah, a few on there. So, why StormGuard? One, roofing, $20 billion industry. StormGuard is the largest residential roofing franchise in the country. We do retail, as Shane mentioned, mainly 90% of what we do is insurance based. A few things that I love about StormGuard is we're not just looking to go into every market. A lot of those franchises will sell to anywhere in any market. Well, we look at a few things. One, we look at insurance reimbursement rates. We want to make sure that that makes sense. We don't want our franchisees not to be able to use good labor and good quality materials. We also look at storms. So when we sell a territory, it's a territory that we think could be successful. Another couple things about StormGuard, the training program is absolutely world class. So our franchisees are taken care of from a franchise business consultant when they start with StormGuard all the way to the end, making sure that they're fully trained, up to speed. Part of the development process will include talking to franchisees, and you'll hear about the family, you'll hear about the culture, but that's really important. And most of the people that are looking at joining a franchise, they want a proven business model, they want support, but some franchisors are very rigid. It's always my way or the highway. And with StormGuard, it's the family, it's innovation, it's working together. I have 2 young sons, and I wish they always listen to me, but they rarely do, because it's a family, and families work together. The item 19, which all candidates will get a chance to see as part of the process, has the top, basically the average, the top 10%, the bottom 10%, median. So franchisees can definitely make money. The item 7 will give the range, but you were kind of right in that middle there, Lance. But a very detailed item 7, which lays out everything, including working capital, to get the franchisee up to speed. And then the last thing that I really, really like about StormGuard, which you don't see very often, when we sell territories, our territories are on average 100,000 single family households, homeowner occupied. So the territories are really large. A lot of franchises will sell 3 territories. Well, with StormGuard, when we sell a territory, we want the territory to be large enough to do business in. So really, franchisees only need 1 territory with StormGuard because they're large enough, and you don't need to buy 3 licenses.
You guys are awesome. This is a ton of information, and I'm sure people are getting really excited. And, full disclosure, not that I need to disclose this, but being in the franchise world for almost 25 years plus, I had a couple that came to me recently, as you guys probably remember, that became franchisees, and they were looking at other things, the restaurant industry, which is quite popular. And when they saw your numbers and they saw the item 19, one of the individuals is a CPA, she's an accountant. And when they saw the numbers, they were like, "Whoa, this is a business we can wrap our heads around for our nice young family here." And they have great skills. So let's kind of go into that piece next. Who is right for StormGuard? If you looked at the top 10% of franchisees, I'm going to guess they're from all walks of life. But we know most of them or all of them are not contractors. But what are those traits that you find so perfect for a StormGuard franchisee to be successful?
John, you want to start?
I think, I think to start, relationship building skills are going to be really important. Reaching out to local community. A lot of our successful franchisees will partner with, insurance people, solar, plumber, and really just having that going on. And if there's any type of exterior restoration needed, we're top of mind. I think successful franchisees in general, they have to have perseverance. They have to have determination and grit. Not everything is going to be smooth sailing in business. There will be challenges. And for those that can really persevere and dig down and get going, that can make it happen, good communicators, responsiveness, and, the people that treat others well, because when people treat others well, their employees tend to stick around. They want to work a little bit harder. So I think those tend to be skills that are good for franchising, but when you look at the successful StormGuard owners, they really display.
Yeah, good. Shane?
Yeah, I'm gonna be real.
Please do.
So, all right. Number one, from my perspective, is tenacity. My dad likes to call it a cannot fail attitude. Why?
Stick-to-itiveness.
Exactly. Why? All right. It doesn't matter where you buy, what territory you're going to have competition. And in most states, roofing is completely unregulated. There are a couple of states where there are licensing requirements and that sort of thing. But in many, many, many states, completely unregulated. If you want to be a roofer, you say, I'm a roofer, and you're a roofer. And so you're going to have to not fight, but you're going to have competition that they don't necessarily do things the right way. So legally, you have to collect a deductible. It's part of the contract between the insured and the insurance company. They've got to pay their deductible. Well, there are plenty of companies that'll just say, yeah, we'll waive your deductible. Right. We don't do that, which means that we lose certain customers that just don't want to do things the right way. So you've got to be tenacious. You got to have that stick-to-itiveness to get over those people that don't want to do things the right way. And this is one that, this is one of the qualities that my VP of franchise ops and I have talked a lot about recently. You can't be too proud. What does that mean? All right, we're in roofing, right? Like if you derive, if you're proud to say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, I can tell people I'm a lawyer, they'll be really impressed, or I'm a doctor, and that's where you get your pride. Are you going to get in your own way by telling people I'm a roofer? Or will you just not tell them? You got to tell them, because you got to get your customers. So you have to understand, why are you getting into this? Are you getting in? This is true of every franchise. Are you getting into it to say, I'm a business owner? Or are you getting into it because you want to do better for your family? And so you really have to ask yourself that hard question. What makes me proud? Am I proud to build a sustainable business, or am I proud to tell people that I'm a business owner, or that I'm a lawyer, or that I'm an executive? And if it's the latter, what we do might not be the best thing for you. In fact, if it's the latter, franchising might not be the best thing for you.
Well, you just set that up perfectly, because my next question was going to be, who isn't right for a franchise, and how quickly can you tell someone you're speaking with is not right for StormGuard, or any franchise for that matter?
Man, if I had the answer to that question, I would have never had somebody fail. And unfortunately, like every franchisor, we've had people fail. Yep. But I think that there are a couple of things that when we're talking to people, we can hear in them. And the first one is, if there's a little roadblock in the process, because there's going to be a little roadblock in the process, there always is. Do they just get super frustrated, and do they want to quit? Because if they want to quit the process before you buy it, they're not going to be able to run when they run into some roadblocks when they're actually running the business. The next thing is, for me, part of our process, whenever we can, I like to take people to lunch. I like to get them out of the office and just talk about whatever. Do I get from them that we share values? Because I'm very value driven. Company is very driven. If you look at Franchise Business Review, we won an award for our values, and our average score for the values questions was over 95.
I love it.
So I've got to know that when I say we do things the right way, we don't waive deductibles. We do what the insurance is paying us to do. We don't reuse things if we're being paid to use new. Are you, candidate, going to do the same thing? And are you going to do it because it's the right thing to do? So those are the big ones for me. John?
Wait, before you jump in,
Yeah.
I got to interject. It's just perfect what you just laid up here. It was either Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett. It might have been Steve Jobs. He used to take executives to lunch to learn more about them, and was curious how they would treat the server in a nicer restaurant. And I don't think there can be anything more true in franchising when you're selecting franchisees, because if they're treating a server well, they're going to treat their own employees well, more than likely. And that's all great stuff. The other thing that I constantly hear from franchisors is that, believe it or not, some people talk such a good game when they come through the franchise process. But sometimes, I mean, I could speak for myself. I was head of operations for a big burger brand in 1998 or so in California. And when we were selecting franchisees, the minute they, especially celebrities, we work with a lot of athletes, professional athletes, and they would talk about, well, when I retire and I'm going to play golf and I'll have my friend run the business or whatever it might be. Those were all red flags, because at the end of the day, we all know that while some brands can be operated on an absentee or semi-absentee basis, the beginning is the most crucial. I mean, you have to get traction. You have to get off the ground right. So the other key to success is, are you going to work hard? Is somebody going to work on this business all the time?
Absolutely. I think some people have a misimpression of franchising. I think that they pay this their belief is they pay this franchise fee, 5-6 figures, and they're given a business in a box. It doesn't matter how developed a franchisor is. It doesn't matter if they have 500 units. They're not giving you a business in a box. They will not do the work for you. They will give you, franchising is more akin than a business in a box to a really, really good recipe card. We tell you that you need to add 4 eggs and, put in 2 cups of flour and bake at 350 for 15 minutes. And there's some wiggle room on some of that stuff, because it's ultimately your dish. You get to season it how you want.
I love it.
You'll have to cook it.
I love it. John, what were you going to add to this?
Yeah, I think you're right on about that. Some people, they want to get in the business, they don't want to work, and that's someone right away like that might not be a really good fit. The other one is successful franchisees do follow the model, at least most of the time. And when you have a pretty straightforward development model and education process, if you get someone right away that they don't want to hear it, they want to do it their way, and they're not gonna follow that model, they're generally not gonna be successful. So every time where maybe somebody gets through that shunt based on that, they tend to turn out to be a problem down the road. So back to, they don't need the home improvement experience. They don't need to be the smartest person in the room or the most business experience. It's, that I'm willing to learn. I don't know what I don't know. I want to learn more. I want to find the model. I want to gather the information and make an informed buying decision. And for those people that don't want to do it that way, they're not going to be a good fit for StormGuard or probably any other franchise.
Right.
Yeah. What John just said about following the model is key for every franchise. I take the position that when we get a candidate, I need them to be the right fit for me, just as I'm the right fit for them. And so I understand that not every franchisee is my franchisee, but this advice is completely generic across all franchise brands that somebody might be looking at. You're buying a franchise because you don't know how to do it. You're buying a franchise because even if you've been in the restaurant industry, let's say that you owned a McDonald's franchise and now you're buying a Pizza Hut franchise. Okay, so you know how to make food, but you don't know how to do it the Pizza Hut way.
Right.
And so why do you think that you can come in on day one and say, we need to change the dough recipe? Wait, what? Same thing for every franchise. Even if let's say that, you've been in the insurance industry and you're an insurance agent and you know how all that works. And so you've got some ideas on how it should work within StormGuard. Well, slow down. we've done this 35 times successfully, plus a couple of times that, everybody learned on. Listen to us. Give me 6 months. Give me 6 months to do it the way that my team says to do it. And in that 6 months, they're going to give you a couple of things where they say, here's our suggested, but you need to do it your way, because ultimately you're the one that has to sell it. A perfect example is, how do you compensate your employees? Here's our suggested, but you've got to be able to sell it to people. Other than that stuff, we've got some stuff that's just, this is the way to do it. We know it. So try that first.
Yep. Trust the process.
Absolutely.
So John, when it comes to the franchise selection process, why don't you just run us through that, including discovery day, validation, final selection, the whole thing?
Yeah, so what we do is we do a kind of initial call. We talk about, the candidate, kind of what their background, what they're looking for, kind of talk about the educational process, what that's going to look like. Then what we do is we do a StormGuard welcome call where we go through, talk about kind of the history of StormGuard, the different support items, technology. We talk about item 7, we talk about item 19 in the franchise disclosure document. Then the candidate receives the franchise disclosure document, which some people have seen them before, some people haven't. For those who haven't, you always want to kind of, explain what they're going to be looking at, because if you haven't seen one before, they can seem a little bit daunting.
And that's what I help with. I help people with that.
That's why you want to go to Lance, is because he's going to help you with it. Because if not properly prepared, it will blow someone's head up. Yeah. So then what I do is I do a franchise disclosure document review call where I go over the key items with the prospective candidates, answer any questions they have on the franchise disclosure document, any questions they have on StormGuard. And then I look for kind of validation, like who would be a good connection for them. Because a lot of times, people in the same city, state, region, obviously you want to talk to StormGuard franchisees in that area, and that's a no-brainer. The other thing would be background, as Shane mentioned, the closest is probably a Snapple salesperson, but restaurant industry, we have ex-restaurant executives, we have executives from, medical device and things like that. So we really try to look for like-minded individuals to connect them with and validation, and get a chance to speak to multiple StormGuard franchisees, and basic things like, do they like being a franchisee, all the way into kind of those financial pieces, so they can really ask their questions, build out their own model, and ultimately decide, are they interested in StormGuard. We have an application process that prospective applicants go through. Shane reviews all those, and then we have a meet the team day. And then our meet the team day, we're doing both virtual and live currently. That could change down the road, but depending on where people are at and how they feel.
Right.
It's really a chance for them to meet the key StormGuard team members, for the StormGuard team members to meet them. It's not a signing event, so it's a chance for everyone to come together and really talk about the next steps and is it a good fit. And then I'll have a follow-up call with Shane and the StormGuard team. I'll have another follow-up call like a day or two later with the candidate. We kind of get the feedback on the meet the team day. What do they like? What do they like to see differently? Then we do the awarding decision. And if it is a thumbs up from both sides, then we talk about franchise fees, franchise agreements, and usually about 7 to 14 days after the event, the onboarding begins.
And John, that takes place, what's the average time period from start to finish?
30 to 60 days. So we'll say the average is probably right in the middle, around that 45. One thing that's nice about it is, we get through good information quickly, but we don't have 5 calls before you get the franchise disclosure document. So it's designed to, give people the education that they need, get them the information that they need so they can make an informed buying decision. So 30 to 60, we'll say, but we'll put the average right there in the middle.
Perfect. Shane, I'm sure you have something to add to that. I was going to mention your family comment from earlier, because when it comes to validation, I know your validation's tremendous because it feels like a family. And for those listeners that don't even know what validation is, it's just another piece of the process in all great franchise brands where you have an opportunity to speak to existing franchisees. Some could be in your area. That does make sense most of the time. Some maybe not. Some could be a long-term franchisee that you get to ask whatever you want. And when you hear feedback from peers and people that were in your exact position, some cases years before you, they were nervous. They had the same questions you did. They weren't sure if this was the franchise for them. Although usually when you get to validation, you start to become pretty sure. So you guys have tremendous validation.
Yeah. When I think about the franchise development process, it's obviously important that you understand the business model and that you understand the economics of it and, all of that stuff. But to me, the two key pieces, most important pieces that a candidate needs to pay attention to is first, validation. Why? It's not because you can ask that person what's their financials like and, that sort of thing. That's certainly super important. But that person can give you the insight on what is it like to be a franchisee with this franchisor. To give you an example, every franchisor looks at their agreement a little bit differently. So I have a lot of stuff in my agreement that, I am a lawyer, but I also have very good lawyers that my lawyers say need to be in the agreement. Do I necessarily enforce those things? No. But me telling you that doesn't mean much because we will have only talked once or twice.
Right.
But when my franchisees say, look, Shane doesn't enforce this unless there's a reason to, and if you're trying your best, he's never going to find a reason.
Right.
That insight into how does the franchisor look at the relationship is key, because it doesn't matter which franchise you're signing with. You're signing an agreement that at bare minimum is 5 years, more likely 10, 15, 20. And so you're in a long-term relationship. And so you better make sure that you want to be in a relationship with the people that run it. That's the second piece, is talking to me, because you're going to be in a relationship with me. And you need to make sure that you understand how I see things. And I need to make sure that I understand how you see things. And if we mesh, then it's going to be a great relationship.
Yep. I love it. I love it. That's such a perfect answer. And, in validation, a lot of times franchisees ask, or prospective franchisees ask, let's say your franchisees, things like, so would you do it over again? And that's a pretty telling response that they're waiting on.
Absolutely.
And again, based on your success with Franchise Business Review and success in general, I know the answers to these questions. You guys are rock solid. What do we not cover that you'd like to share today before we wrap up?
John?
I think that's a pretty good snapshot. Just if you're interested in StormGuard, talk to Lance and he'll determine if it's
send them your way.
We'd love to work with you.
Yeah, I think I'd like to say that it doesn't matter which franchise you're considering or that you sign with. You're going to have an emotional roller coaster. And the day that you sign is going to be probably the highest emotional day that you have for a while. Because the next day, you're probably going to sit down and go, what did I do? I just committed myself to this. And I got to do this. And that's okay. Because if you're signing with StormGuard, you've got the StormGuard family that's going to do everything in our power to make sure that you're successful and to make sure that eventually, after you get past some of the learning stuff and you're out of that trough, that your next emotional high is even higher than the day that you signed, and that it just keeps trending up so that you can come to me at conference like I've had franchisees do and tell me that joining StormGuard was the best decision that they ever made, other than getting married, having kids, things like that.
I love it. And that's why my favorite hashtag being in the franchise world is changing lives.
Absolutely.
Because when, you said it so perfectly, as you were just discussing, it's really a two-way street. When they come to see you, it's you're listening to them and hearing what they're saying and what's important to them, or maybe hearing what they're not saying. And likewise, is this going to be a fit? Is this going to be a good fit here? Because they might fit perfectly well in a different franchise. More than likely, they don't fit with you, they're not going to fit with any others.
Yep.
but nevertheless, I mean, and this has been amazing. You guys have tossed out some, just fantastic nuggets of information, and it's been amazing hosting you. So I wish you continued success, and we will speak again. John North and Shane Lynch, thank you so much for talking about StormGuard.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.